I just want to know what you saw that night.
Man, I ain't no snitch, dog. Ain't feel me.
No.
Y'all turn these cameras off, I'll tell y'all boys, but hell no. But like, I can't.
I'm not saying you're snitching,
Yeah.
but you gotta point me in the right direction. You gotta help me look in the right direction.
Yeah.
We'll never say it came from you, trust me.
YNW Melly's whole situation just flipped upside down because a close homie finally leaked that late night interrogation footage.
I don't
already know I'm finna break it down to y'all, cause this why I'm gonna tell y'all, like.
And this drop got the internet going wild. The person who exposed it didn't just spark questions. This clip has social media shaking like never before. And now everyone's wondering if this new footage might completely rewrite what we thought happened that night. These leaked videos came out in November 2025 featuring Jacoby Mills, a confirmed associate who was present that night, and he's giving one of the most detailed inside views we've ever seen about what really went down when Sack Chaser and Juvie lost their lives.
When you guys went to the New Era studio, who was driving, who was in what car, who was driving?
And Bortland was driving, Sack was in the passenger seat, Melly was behind Bortland, and Juvie was behind Sack.
But let's be clear, this isn't blurry cell phone video of the actual moment. This is straight up interrogation room footage, raw and unfiltered, and people can't stop talking about it. What makes this footage hit even harder is that Mills was actually there, riding in the red car that followed the Jeep where the incident allegedly happened. This isn't secondhand talk or street whispers. This is someone who was in the crew, someone who knew everybody involved, someone who watched the night unfold from the inside. That's why folks online are losing their minds over this drop. But to understand why this clip blew up the entire situation, we gotta go back to the foundation of this case. A case that's gripped the community for over 6 years. It all started on October 26, 2018, when two rising Florida rappers, Anthony YNW Sack Chaser Williams and Christopher YNW Juvie Thomas Jr. were found in a Jeep Cherokee at Memorial Hospital in Miramar. Both were part of the same YNW circle, a crew that had been building their sound, their movement, and their future together from the ground up. And YNW Melly, real name Jamel Demons, wasn't some outsider. He was one of their closest brothers, someone who came up with them, someone who shared the grind, the studio time, the struggles, all of it. These weren't enemies. These were people who were supposed to have each other's backs no matter what. The first story that dropped claimed that Cortland YNW Bortland Henry drove the two victims to the hospital after a random drive-by shooting. On the surface, it looked like another heartbreaking moment where young men got caught in street violence. But the details never sat right with investigators, and that's what sparked everything that followed. This was the kind of story people hear way too often in many communities, but when detectives started digging deeper, the whole situation fell apart faster than a stack of cards in a storm. The more investigators studied the evidence, the clearer it became that the original story didn't line up with the facts at all. Forensics showed something shocking. The shots didn't come from outside the Jeep like a normal drive-by. The autopsy revealed both victims were hit from inside the vehicle, which instantly changed everything.
So this resting angle in this seat, you have the projectile coming in, exiting through the top of the skull, and then continuing through the windshield.
And the angles of the bullets pointed straight toward the exact seat where Melly was said to be sitting that night. This detail flipped the case into a whole different category. The prosecution's version of events says that around 1 a.m. on October 26, 2018, 8 people pulled up to New Era Recording Studio in Fort Lauderdale to work on music. Nothing unusual there. Late night studio sessions are normal, especially when artists are grinding to make their next big move. But according to the leaked footage, the vibe inside that studio was strange from the moment everyone walked in.
These niggas acting weird. These niggas acting like this, folks.
Well, who was acting weird?
Every last one of them.
All 4 of them?
Everybody. It was 8 of us done that night.
Mills said the group wasn't acting like their normal selves, and the mood kept getting worse. Sack Chaser was being overly aggressive, even slapping people who nodded off during the session. The energy was messy, nobody could focus, and the music wasn't coming together at all. By 3:19 a.m., everybody decided to shut it down and go home because the night just wasn't flowing. This is where the timeline gets serious. The squad split into two separate vehicles. 4 people got into a red Mitsubishi SUV, Trivian Glass, Dontavius Withers, Jacoby Mills, and Adrian Davis. The other 4 jumped into a gray Jeep Cherokee. Cortland, YNW, Bortland, Henry behind the wheel, Anthony Sack Chaser Williams riding up front, Christopher Juvie Thomas Jr. in the back, and Jamel, YNW Melly Demon sitting in the rear driver's side seat. That seating arrangement became one of the biggest details in the entire investigation, and the leaked footage brought even more heat to the situation. Surveillance cameras caught both vehicles rolling out on the same route, first I-95 south to 595, then across to I-75 south, and finally toward Miramar Parkway. At first, nothing looked suspicious at all. Just 2 cars full of exhausted artists heading home after a long, stressful studio session. But then the situation took a dark twist that nobody expected. When they reached 184th Avenue, the red Mitsubishi kept driving south and was seen on camera going through the guard gate at Sunset Lakes around 3:50 a.m. That's the gated neighborhood where most of the crew stayed, so everything seemed normal on their end. But the gray Jeep, it never appeared on that same camera. Not once. Instead, cell phone data later showed the Jeep went north, completely breaking away from the original route. So the question became, where were they going? And this is where the story gets straight up chilling. The data showed the Jeep going north on 184th, then turning onto Pines Boulevard and driving west all the way toward the edge of the Everglades, a pitch black, empty area with no traffic, no lights, and no witnesses. The type of spot where nobody would see anything happening in the dark. From there, the Jeep traveled south on US 27 and then turned left onto Pembroke Road, a road that literally dead ends at a trash facility. According to the phone records, it was at this isolated location at 4:02 a.m. that the murders allegedly took place. That timestamp would become one of the most important pieces of the entire investigation. But here's what made the case even more unbelievable. When police searched the entire stretch of Miramar Parkway, where the supposed drive-by was claimed to have happened, they found nothing at all. No shell casings, no shattered glass, no damaged asphalt, no bullet holes, no skid marks. Not a single trace of an actual shooting. That location didn't match the story in any way. And then came the medical examiner's testimony, which dropped another bomb. According to the autopsy, at 4:02 a.m., when the drive-by was allegedly being staged, both victims were already deceased.
I know that he was already deceased because the back of his back, essentially, the rounds that are in his back, have no blood in them. My determination was that this is not a drive-by shooting. The shooter's at a stationary position when all but one of these rounds are going in.
The extra gunshot wounds, the ones meant to make it look like bullets came from outside the Jeep, were post-mortem, meaning they were fired after the victims were no longer alive. This detail turned the entire narrative upside down and made investigators rethink everything about that night. Think about this for a second, because the prosecution's version of events is intense. According to them, Melly and Bortland didn't just harm their own friends, they went even further and staged a whole cover-up, driving around with the bodies in the Jeep and then firing shots from outside to make it look like a random drive-by. That's the kind of calculated move that goes way beyond any simple argument or heated moment gone wrong. But prosecutors didn't stop at the physical evidence. They also brought up Instagram DMs where someone asked Melly about what happened, and he allegedly replied, "I did that, shh." That one message had people talking non-stop. On top of that, they brought in claims that Melly had ties to the G-Shine blood set, and that just 2 days before the incident, he was learning the gang's loyalty oath. That detail made the case feel even heavier in court. The first trial in July 2023 ended in a mistrial because the jury couldn't agree on a decision. After that, the retrial kept getting delayed over and over, and now it's scheduled for January 2027. Melly has been locked up more than 6 years with no official conviction, while his co-defendant, Cortland YNW Bortland Henry, took a plea deal for accessory charges back in October 2025. That move shook fans everywhere, And this brings us straight to why the leaked interrogation videos matter so much. Jacoby Mills, also known as Cortez Tezzy Jacoby, is described as Bortland's blood cousin and was one of the people riding in the red Mitsubishi that same night. He wasn't in the Jeep, but he was still close enough to see how the whole night unfolded. That puts him in a rare position, close to the action, but still on the outside enough to speak without risking the same charges. These interrogation tapes were recorded in January 2019, only a few months after everything happened, and long before the public ever learned most of the details. That timing is a big deal, because it means Mills was talking about things that wouldn't come out for years. And when someone mentions details way before they become public knowledge, it gives their statements a level of credibility that's hard to ignore. The fact that this footage is only now hitting the public in November 2025, right when the retrial is gearing up, has everybody questioning the timing. People are wondering if this leak is strategic, meant to sway public opinion before jury selection even begins. Some think it might be connected to the civil lawsuit still floating around, while others believe it came out naturally through discovery. But nobody can ignore how suspicious the timing looks. Meanwhile, the hip-hop world exploded the moment this clip dropped. Big voices like DJ Academics jumped into the conversation, along with thousands of regular users online, each claiming they know what this means for the case. The streets are split in half. Some people swear this is the final piece that proves Melly is guilty, while others say Mills is being labeled a snitch and turning his back on the street code for his own protection. The debate is getting louder by the hour. What makes the whole thing even messier is that Mills keeps repeating in the interrogation that he's not snitching. He insists he's only trying to help his friends.
Juvie ain't deserve to die. You feel me? Juvie just died.
Everyone says that about Juvie. Said he was a decent kid, man.
Juvie was, man, bro. Juvie was one of the most kind-hearted niggas you will ever meet. Juvie is the hood life.
But the information he shares is so detailed and potentially damaging that it's tough to see how any of it helps the defense. The way he talks, the precision of his memory, it's enough to shake up the entire case. And trust me, Mills didn't hold back. He spilled everything. This interrogation is one of the most shocking confessions the hip-hop scene has ever seen, and the tension around it is unreal. Then the footage cuts to the breakdown, and from there, things get even spicier. If you thought the earlier details were wild, this next part goes deeper into the night than anything we've heard before. Mills starts walking investigators through the timeline step by step, and the way he tells it makes the whole night feel heavy and unsettling. He begins by explaining how they arrived at New Era Recording Studio around midnight, but the vibe was off the moment they stepped inside. Instead of that hungry, creative energy you expect during late-night sessions, everybody looked drained. Folks were nodding off, barely paying attention, and acting like something was weighing on them heavy. And if you're from the streets, you know studio time costs money, real money. So nobody wastes those hours unless something is seriously wrong. Mills makes it clear that nothing about that night felt normal. The crew was quiet, tired, and edgy, and the energy in the room felt off balance in a way he couldn't explain. And hearing it come from someone who was physically there gives the whole situation a different kind of impact. This interrogation didn't just add new details. It changed the entire tone of the story, and now people everywhere are trying to figure out what really happened that night. Here's where Mills' story really starts heating up. He describes Sack Chaser as aggressive and controlling that night, even slapping people for dozing off in the studio. And anyone who understands street energy knows that when someone disrespects the whole crew like that, tension builds fast and something serious usually follows. Mills goes on to say Sack Chaser had a wild streak and a history of being quick to anger, which lines up with other talk about long-standing arguments inside the group over money and control.
Bortland did the shit wrong with some shit. He done beat Bortland up in the car, Bortland crying. Like, bro, why you beating on me, bro? Why you beating on me, bro? Sat and goddamn grabbed the Draco, put the Draco in Melly's hand. Y'all boys want to kill me now. Them boys ain't kill him, though. You know what I'm saying? So
this happened?
This happened in the house, though. This just like, that situation was like an everyday thing. Like,
Did you see where his other clothes were at? What's your impression? What do you think happened?
Same thing y'all think. I would.
He even says Sack Chaser acted like he was the one calling all the shots, which already had people feeling uneasy. This leads straight into a rumor that's been floating around the streets for years. the money disputes that may have played a role in everything that went down. According to sources in the leaked audio, there were huge disagreements over a record deal worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Sack Chaser supposedly believed he was the CEO of YNW and that he deserved half of everything Melly brought in. That kind of financial tension can break a whole team apart. Then Mills gives details about the seating in the Jeep that night, and these details are major. According to him, Cortland Bortland Henry was driving, Sack Chaser was in the front passenger seat, Jamel YNW Melly Demons sat behind Bortland, and Juvie was behind Sack Chaser. Meanwhile, Mills was in the red Mitsubishi with Tay driving, Fetty in the passenger seat, and Adrian Davis in the back. The placement of everybody in those vehicles became one of the biggest puzzle pieces in the whole case. Then comes the part that sends chills down your spine. Mills says he first tried to get into the Jeep, the same Jeep where everything allegedly happened. But something stopped him. He describes it like a sudden force, almost like instinct or spiritual protection kicking in, and it convinced him not to get in. Whether someone believes in divine signs or just street intuition, that moment feels heavy because it suggests Mills sensed danger before anything even went down. Mills also adds that Juvie gathered weapons from the studio before they left, almost like he expected trouble later on, and he says Melly had a brown satchel with him that supposedly held a gun. These details have investigators and fans locked in because they paint a picture of a group leaving the studio with tension already boiling. The way Mills tells it, the energy around that Jeep was completely off, and hearing these details now adds a whole new layer to this already complicated case. This part of Mills' story lines up perfectly with the prosecution's claim that the murders were planned in advance, not some heated argument that spun out of control. And then things take a turn that's absolutely unbelievable. Mills says they reached the house in Sunset Lakes and ended up waiting outside for about 30 minutes because nobody had the keys. Most of the crew eventually got inside and fell asleep, but around 4 a.m., Mills gets a chilling phone call from his mother.
My sister called right after my mama called. I answered, I was like, what's up? And I was like, matter of fact, never mind, I need to call my mama. Hung up on her, called my mama back. She was like, hello? She was breathing hard. She was like, somebody said y'all all dead. Somebody called and said y'all all dead. I said, what?
She tells him someone contacted her saying something serious was coming their way. Hearing a warning like that in the middle of the night is no joke. Think about that. His mother gets a threat involving her own child and his entire crew. When family starts getting dragged into the danger, that means the situation has moved way past music or money issues. That's deep street pressure, the kind that usually means something serious already happened or is about to happen. Mills also says he saw a bunch of missed calls from Melly, along with 17 calls to Drew, the group's videographer. If someone hits your phone that many times before the sun is up, you know something huge just went down. People don't blow up your line like that unless everything is falling apart. But then comes the part of Mills' story that hits the hardest. He claims Melly FaceTimed him after the murders, and what he saw shook him.
Melly, man, what the f going on? Like, what's going on? He over there, like, trying to fake cry and shit like that, like, but no tears coming.
Mills says Melly was acting emotional, but the emotions were fake. According to him, Melly was pretending to cry with no real tears, just putting on a show like he wanted everyone to believe he was broken up about his friends being gone. And in street culture, being able to switch emotions on command after something violent happens is something people notice fast. If Mills' account is accurate, it paints Melly as someone who could harm people close to him and then flip into performance mode instantly to hide the truth. That kind of emotional switch is intense and extremely rare. Mills says this moment made him question everything because if someone can act devastated on camera right after something like that, it suggests a level of cold calculation that's hard to ignore. Then Mills drops another specific detail, something prosecutors would absolutely latch on to. He says that when he later saw Melly at Fredo Bang's house, Melly had changed clothes. He was no longer wearing what he had on earlier. Instead, he had switched into a tank top and gym shorts. And anytime someone involved in a serious situation suddenly changes outfits, people start wondering if it's to get rid of something tied to the incident. Mills doesn't outright accuse Melly of hiding evidence, but the way he describes it makes the whole moment feel suspicious. Combined with everything else he said, The clothing change only adds more weight to the theory that something major happened inside that Jeep before anyone knew about it. That detail about the clothing change wasn't just Mills talking. Other witnesses mentioned it during court, which makes it even more intense. But things get even wilder from here. Mills says that the next morning, the crew went into the nearby woods to look around, and that's when they came across a .40 caliber handgun covered in blood. He claims he even held the gun in his hands before a manager quickly took it away from him. That moment alone is enough to make anybody freeze up. He also says they searched for a second weapon, something described as a tech, most likely a Tech 9, but they never found it. And this part is major because prosecutors have always said they never recovered the firearm tied to the crime.
I'm gonna tell you straight up, like, I found the 40. That bitch had blood all over it. It had a cover wrapped around it with blood all over it.
Where were they found?
In the woods. But I'm gonna tell you something though. We couldn't find that tech though.
The tech? We couldn't find the tech? I guess another gun?
And the tech's a 40, right? And what's the tech?
Nah,
Nine?
it ain't.
Okay.
According to Mills' version of events, the weapons might have been located by the crew themselves and then disposed of before investigators could trace them. That would explain why police came up empty-handed despite searching everywhere. Throughout his whole statement, Mills keeps saying that Cortland Bortland Henry wasn't involved in any violent act that night. He describes Bortland as someone who wasn't built for that kind of extreme situation and wouldn't have carried out something so serious. This actually lines up with the fact that Bortland ended up taking a plea deal for accessory charges instead of being hit with the full murder charges. It suggests prosecutors saw a difference in his role compared to everyone else. But Mills doesn't stop at describing actions. He starts talking about possible motives, and that's when things get even more controversial. He says the whole situation felt like a setup, almost like something bigger was happening behind the scenes. He even compares the energy of the night to other major incidents in the industry, similar to the way people still talk about what happened with King Von. And then comes the most explosive part. Mills starts raising questions about whether NBA YoungBoy might have known something about the situation. He doesn't accuse anyone directly, but the way he phrases it definitely sparks conversation. Anytime someone mentions a major artist in connection to a situation this serious, people are going to react fast. His comments open the door to a whole new wave of theories, debates, and arguments online, adding even more layers to a case that was already complex long before these leaked videos ever surfaced. Mills flat out asked how NBA YoungBoy knew so many details about what happened, pointing to old social media posts and a supposed remix track that people claim contained insider references. But this is where things need to slow down for a second, because deep searches never uncovered any proof of that remix, and no investigation has ever linked YoungBoy to this situation at all. Still, the fact that Mills even mentioned his name is huge because people say their crews had past street tension, and when two camps with history collide, rumors can spread fast. Whether YoungBoy actually knew anything or not, his name popping up shows just how tangled hip-hop politics can get. These situations stretch way beyond music. They reach into friendships, alliances, street reputations, and old conflicts that never fully died out. What really makes Mills' statement stand out is how many details he gave back in 2019 that later turned out to be accurate. He wasn't just guessing, he said things that weren't public yet, but were eventually confirmed years later. For example, Mills mentioned that Juvie's thumb was injured in a way that wasn't publicly revealed until attorney John Phillips shared autopsy images in 2025. That's a detail nobody on the outside knew back then. He also correctly described where Melly was picked up by Fredo Bang, and later cell phone data presented in court matched that location. When someone says things years earlier that end up aligning perfectly with official records, it makes people pay attention. But through the entire interrogation, Mills keeps repeating that he isn't snitching. He says he's trying to help his friends while still trying to protect himself. At one point, he even admits he's scared something might happen to his family because he's talking to investigators. That fear alone shows the kind of pressure he was under inside that room. Once these leaked tapes hit the internet, social media went absolutely wild. Hip-hop commentators like DJ Academics broke down every second of the footage, while fans on Reddit, Twitter, and everywhere else started arguing nonstop about whether Mills is a reliable witness or someone trying to protect himself at any cost. Some are calling him honest, others are saying he crossed the line. The debate is intense. What makes the whole situation even more gripping is how it fits into the bigger picture of loyalty and betrayal. In both hip-hop culture and the streets, there's an unwritten rule. You don't talk to law enforcement no matter the circumstances. But when your friends lose their lives and you start suspecting another friend might have been involved, the rules don't feel so simple anymore. Mills' statements push right up against that line. He's trying to tell his side without being labeled something he doesn't want to be. And now the entire world is watching, trying to figure out where loyalty ends and survival begins. Real quick, in this final section, we're breaking down what all of this means for Melly's upcoming trial, how it's shaking people across the hip-hop world, and what the bigger impact is on street culture in the music industry. This situation is way deeper than one criminal case. It's about loyalty, money, power, and the dangerous fallout when all those forces collide at the wrong time. The fallout from these leaks is hitting hip-hop like a shockwave. This isn't just about courtroom drama anymore. This footage is rewriting conversations about loyalty, cooperation, street codes, and who stands where when things get serious in the industry. The impact of Mills' statements is spreading through every level of the game, from legal talk to industry moves to the unwritten rules that guide street culture. Let's start with the legal side because that's where things get wild. These leaks dropped right as Melly's retrial preparations are heating up, and people don't believe that timing is random at all. Lawyers are already saying the footage probably won't be allowed in court because of hearsay issues and the challenge of proving authenticity. But here's the real problem. Millions of people have seen this footage already. That means finding a jury that hasn't been influenced is going to be nearly impossible. When something this explosive hits the internet, it spreads fast. And once the public forms an opinion, it's hard to reset that mindset. Judges and attorneys now have to figure out how to select jurors who haven't watched the videos, haven't been swayed by social media, and can still approach the case fairly. And that's a massive challenge. This whole situation is changing the way people talk about street loyalty too. These videos have fans, bloggers, and even artists debating what loyalty really means when serious crimes are involved. Some see Mills as someone telling the truth to protect himself, while others believe he crossed the line by sharing inside details. Those arguments are spreading all over the culture. What's clear is that the leaks have pushed this case far beyond the courtroom. Now it's a conversation about trust, power, influence, and how dangerous things can get when friendships, business, and street expectations collide. How are they supposed to find 12 fair jurors when half the internet has already watched Mills lay out what he believes happened that night? Defense attorneys are almost guaranteed to push for this footage to be blocked from the trial, and they'll probably request a change of venue too, because trying to seat an unbiased jury after something this viral is a serious challenge. But here's where things get even more interesting from a strategic angle. Some people think these leaks might be tied to the ongoing civil wrongful death lawsuits, since the families of the victims are still pursuing financial damages. And civil court plays by different rules. Hearsay doesn't hit as hard, and the burden of proof is way lower than in a criminal trial. That opens the door for this footage to be used in ways the criminal court might not allow. The fact that Fredo Bang has been pulled into depositions for the civil case shows how wide the search for answers has spread. Bang wasn't directly involved in what happened, but because Mills mentioned Melly showing up at his house afterward, now he's wrapped into the legal process too. Even major names like 50 Cent have reacted to this, proving how deeply the story has grabbed the hip-hop world. Now let's move into the street politics side of everything, because this is where things get intense. A leaked recording of Sack Chaser's family talking the day after the incident revealed that they knew about internal problems inside the YNW circle.
Like DeAndre told somebody, everything Melly get, I get half.
Me do.
You hear that? He said he do. He just said Juvie and DeAndre, Sack Chaser, are YNW, and Sack Chaser's supposed to get half of everything.
Family members discussed money issues, power struggles, and even said Sack Chaser was trying to stop Melly from signing what they called a devil's deal. That's a strong claim, and it shows how much pressure might have been building behind the scenes. This connects to a rumor that's been whispered in the streets for years. The idea that the whole situation was rooted in money and control, not random chaos or gang politics. When one person believes they deserve a massive portion of a record deal worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the other person disagrees, That kind of argument can turn dangerous fast. Big money brings big tension, especially when everyone believes they're the one who built the brand. The family audio also drops another heavy point.
So she just took your clothes?
I mean, no, she got everybody's clothes. Everybody's clothes that was in there.
Why? My mind is telling me there's some, hiding of evidence type shit going on.
It includes concerns about Melly's mother and how she reacted the morning after everything went down. The recording mentions a storage unit being rented early that morning to move belongings, possibly to clear space or hide items connected to the incident. Nothing has been legally confirmed, but the suspicion alone has people talking non-stop. On top of that, the family pointed out that Melly's mother reportedly called out of work around 5:30 a.m. that same morning, hours before anything hit the news. That move made people wonder if she had already been made aware that something serious happened. The timing raised a lot of eyebrows because it suggests she knew way more than the public did at that moment. These details between the civil case, the leaked audio, the talk inside the families, and the industry reactions show just how massive the ripple effect of this story has become. It's no longer just one case or one crew. It's a mix of legal strategy, loyalty questions, whispered rumors, and high-stakes business pressure all colliding at the same time. The NBA YoungBoy angle Mills brought up is wild because it shows just how deep these street connections can run. Mills questioned how YoungBoy seemed to know details about the situation, mentioning an alleged remix in certain social media posts. Even though no proof of that remix has been found, people do say there were past tensions between the two crews, which makes the whole topic even more intense. The simple fact that YoungBoy's name is being mentioned at all shows how connected the hip-hop world really is. Beefs, alliances, and old street history don't exist alone. They weave into each other, forming a huge web where one move can set off consequences for multiple people. When relationships in the industry mix with street energy, things can get complicated fast. But let's talk about the part nobody can ignore: the snitching accusations aimed at Mills. Throughout the whole interrogation, Mills keeps saying he's not a snitch and that he's trying to help his friends, but the hip-hop community hasn't been gentle with him. Social media is packed with people calling him out for talking to law enforcement, and the reactions have been intense. This situation hits the heart of one of hip-hop's toughest cultural conflicts. What happens when the don't cooperate rule clashes with wanting justice for friends who lost their lives? Mills was backed into a corner. If he stayed silent, the truth might never come out. But if he spoke up, he risked being labeled forever and becoming a target. That's a heavy position for anyone to be in. Mills even admitted he was scared for his family's safety because he decided to talk. That alone shows how serious the culture around cooperation can be. It's not just about courtrooms, it's about survival and the fear of how people might react once information gets out. From a bigger perspective, this case is pulling back layers on some uncomfortable truths about the music industry and the streets. These disputes about money, the kind that allegedly played a role in the situation, reflect a real issue in hip-hop. When success hits and big checks start appearing, friendships and family ties can crack under the pressure. Loyalty starts getting tested the moment money enters the picture. Critics have pointed out that cases like this show how young artists from Black communities often face extremely heavy scrutiny from law enforcement. Others argue that the forensic evidence in this case is strong and paints a clear picture. And with Melly being held for over 6 years without a conviction, questions about due process keep coming up, while supporters of the prosecution say the seriousness of the case explains the long timeline. Looking ahead to the retrial set for January 2027, the landscape looks completely different now. These leaked videos changed everything. Florida is still seeking the maximum penalty available under the law, and legal experts say a plea deal that doesn't involve spending life behind bars is almost impossible. That puts enormous pressure on Melly's defense team. And things get even more complicated with Cortland Bortland Henry taking a plea deal back in 2025. That move alone shifts the balance, especially if he ends up testifying in the retrial. On top of that, Mills' detailed interrogation is now circulating everywhere online, shaping how millions of people view the case before it even starts. With all these factors, a cooperating co-defendant, leaked footage breaking the internet, old conflicts resurfacing, and years of public debate, Melly's defense is stepping into one of the toughest battles the hip-hop world has ever watched. The pressure on Melly's defense team is massive, but beyond all the legal drama, these revelations remind everyone of the real human cost of what allegedly happened that night. Mills's description of Juvie as someone who wanted to step away from the rap lifestyle, along with his breakdown of the crew's complicated friendships, paints a picture of young men caught in a situation way heavier than anything they were prepared for. Their lives were cut short, and according to the allegations, the harm came from someone they trusted. And that makes this story hit even harder. The viral spread of these leaked clips also raises serious questions about ethics in the age of social media. Should interrogation footage really be turned into entertainment for millions to dissect? How do we balance the public's desire to know everything with the defendant's right to a fair trial? These aren't small questions. They're issues that stretch way beyond this one case and could reshape how future investigations are handled online. As everyone waits for the retrial to begin, one thing is clear. These leaked videos have locked the entire culture onto this case like never before. The YNW Melly retrial is shaping up to be one of the most watched courtroom battles in hip-hop history, and the truth of what happened on October 26, 2018 might be far more complicated than anyone first imagined. Mills's detailed account gives the closest inside perspective the world has ever heard, and whether people agree with him or not, his words have changed the conversation in a major way. Whether this footage ends up helping the prosecution, adding new layers of confusion, or getting tossed out altogether still remains to be seen. But one thing that's already crystal clear is that this case has exposed deep tensions inside hip-hop culture. Tensions around loyalty, business, pressure, violence, and what justice really means when everyone involved has something to lose. The streets are watching closely, the courts are gearing up, and the entire culture is still trying to make sense of the fallout from these leaks. No matter how the final verdict lands, this story is nowhere near finished, and the shockwaves from these revelations will be felt long after the courtroom doors close. And now we're standing at the edge of one of the wildest stories hip-hop has ever witnessed. What started as a simple question about what happened inside a Jeep on a late October night has turned into a cultural earthquake shaking the courts, the streets, and the entire music industry. Every leak, every rumor, every testimony has pushed this saga into a place nobody expected, and the world is still trying to figure out where the truth really sits. One thing's for sure, the impact won't fade anytime soon. This case has cracked open conversations about loyalty, trust, ambition, and the hidden pressure that comes with fame. It's forced people to look at the difference between friendship and business, between codes and consequences, between survival and silence. And no matter how the retrial plays out, the story of YNW Melly and everyone connected to that night will echo for years to come. But while the courts prepare for the final showdown, the culture refuses to look away. Fans want answers, artists want clarity, and the industry wants to know what this means for the future of hip-hop. The truth is still unfolding, and every new detail pushes the narrative into deeper territory. This isn't just a case anymore. It's a chapter in hip-hop history that people will be studying, debating, and arguing about long after the verdict drops. If you want to stay locked in with every update, every twist, every new angle, then you already know where you need to be. BarzBuzz is breaking it all down. The stories, the controversies, the courtroom chaos, and the culture-shifting moments that keep the hip-hop world spinning. Don't miss a single drop. Tune in, stay sharp, and keep your eyes on the next wave of revelations, because this saga is far from over. And now we've reached the end of one of the wildest sagas hip-hop has ever seen. Everything we've uncovered, the leaked footage, the conflicting stories, the shifting alliances, and the unanswered questions, shows just how deep this situation goes. This isn't just a courtroom drama anymore. It's a window into how loyalty, pressure, money, and power can twist lives in ways nobody saw coming. What happened on that night in October is still being debated everywhere, from barbershops to social media threads, and the truth is more tangled than anyone imagined. These leaked videos didn't just spark conversations, they forced the entire culture to face the darker side of fame and street loyalty. And as the retrial approaches, the tension around this case is only getting heavier. No matter which way the verdict goes, one thing is clear. This story already changed hip-hop. It exposed how fragile friendships can become when money gets loud, how fast trust can break under pressure, and how the industry's hidden politics can pull people into situations they never planned for. The streets are watching every move. The courts are gearing up for a massive showdown, and the culture is still trying to process the fallout. And if you want to stay tapped into every update, every twist, every leak, every courtroom moment that's about to shake the game, you already know where to lock in. BarzBuzz is breaking it all down with the raw details, the context, and the real talk you won't get anywhere else. Stay tuned, stay locked, and keep watching, because this saga is nowhere close to finished. If this saga had you shook, wait till you see what's next. You already know what it is. BarzBuzz got the real, raw, and unfiltered breakdowns. So don't forget to like, subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with someone who needs to catch up.